Welcome, everyone. I'm Machi Simeonidou. I'm the coordinator of the RECAP project, and it's really a big delight for us to have you all here today. Today is a very big day for us. It's the day where we are going to discuss in an open public the results of our project, the result of the work that we have been doing for the last 2.5 years, and to validate with everyone here and the whole ecosystem out there, whether what we envisioned in the beginning has actual benefits for the stakeholders involved. Now, this session is about the results that we brought in life after the end of the RECAP project. But for us, it's more about how we can continue using what we have brought so far, how we can actually continue and give life to this project after the end, the official end of this project. It's typical when you get a research project to end saying that I need more resources, I need more time to validate issues, I need more time to pilot test. But in this case, due to the fact that we had involved from the beginning in the project all the stakeholders, as you will see later, we strongly believe that we have achieved a goal that in the beginning seemed very far. Having at hand a platform, a solution, some services that can be actually used by the people involved and all of those who want to use something new in terms of monitoring CAP. Now, before I go on, I would just like to say that for those of you who were here yesterday and have already heard about RECAP and what it is about, just act surprised today. And the rest of you will just give you a quick overview of the RECAP platform. And I have here with me all of the partners of the project, the paying agencies, the consultants, representatives of the farmers community, people involved in the project from the beginning to share with you their experience and have an open discussion. So I encourage you at the end to ask us whatever it is that you need to ask us, no matter how big or small, because it will give us incentives to continue and modify and change the work that we have been doing so far. So for those of you who are not familiar with technology? No? Okay, sorry. This one? Before I start, I have to say that due to the fact that this session is going to be recorded, we need the written and signed consent of all people involved who are going to take part, that they are okay with the recording, and so that we will be able to publish it and people to see it after the Inspire conference. Now, what RECAP is about? When we started talking about the idea of bringing a platform in life where we could actually help farmers and paying agencies come together, we understood that there was a big part of the farmers' obligations that they had to do and perform every day, and had to do with their environmental impact. So farmers, in order to get direct payments from the Common Agricultural Policy, they have to follow specific rules under the cross-compliance scheme and greening. But there are some challenges behind it. So the challenges mainly have to do with the fact that in some cases, the complexity of those measures is really high. And for a farmer, a small farmer, to actually find, read, understand, and implement the measures of cross-compliance is a huge job, which led to neglection of their obligations, which led to the fact that if I'm not going to get control, then there is no point in understanding or following those measures. And on the other hand, you had the paying agencies doing a very difficult job, which was high in terms of cost and time consuming. And only 1% of the farmers needed to be checked every year. In order to, so we raised those concerns and discussed it with our partners and said, how can we actually help them solve the situation? In some cases, in some countries, the farmers had to read more than 150 measures that they needed to follow. And they needed to read the legislation, not according to their type of farming, but a general legislation that was the same for all. What it is that we did? We saw that in the era of satellite data, in the fact that so many things were happening around us, and it was now more than ever easy to get free access to data that could actually have a meaning for farmers as well and the paying agencies, it was the time to combine the satellite data to provide public authorities and the whole agricultural ecosystem with services that would make their work more transparent and more efficient. And at the same time, to break down this very complex legislation and give personalized guidance to farmers. That means that if you are a farmer in Greece cultivating cotton, with this solution, you can have in hand only those measures that apply to your case. Now, the whole thing about transparency and efficiency of public authorities was also of big importance, because the farmer was only checked once a year, one day, where he had to prove or he had to discuss with the inspector what he has been doing throughout the whole year. We spent more than 6 months with our partners discussing what it is actually that the users want, because we understood from the beginning that if we don't pay attention to how the users are actually doing their work so far and what it is that they need, we would end up with a solution that had no meaning for them whatsoever. So we discussed with farmers, the paying agencies, and the consultants to find the best solution for them. In the beginning, the vision was to give one platform for all. And it seems that this one-size-for-all approach does not actually have benefits in our case as well. So what we did, we offered this solution customized to the needs of each paying agency, agricultural consultant, and farmer in order for them to actually do their work right. You will hear more about RECAP and the platform. You will see a demonstration of the platform and how it works. I will not spend a lot of time discussing the technologies, just to give you 2 hints here. First of all, our company offers this solution as an open license solution, open source solution. And that is because we believe that it is important for the whole community out there of developers to be able to build on top of this RECAP platform, or even the paying agencies. In some cases, the public authorities are not mature enough, so they don't have IT departments within their premises, but in other cases, they can do it. So this is offered as an open solution. Now, we use the remote sensing tool that you will hear more about from my colleague here, Harris, who will explain everything that we have done so far in order to extract useful features, to identify crop types. And we also have a spatial tool that's used in order to visualize all the data necessary for our users. Along with the business intelligence tools, where we have large data sets that are being handled by the paying agencies, we are able to provide the service that you will see later. One of the innovations of this project was the fact that we offer an SDK tool, which helps developers to build add-ons extending the functionality of RECAP. And at the end, we understood through the user requirements phase, because as I told you, this is a solution that was co-developed and co-produced with our partners. And we've seen there that giving them just RECAP makes no sense. They need to integrate it into the existing system. So it is offered through an API service. All of that can be used either in a web or a mobile application, mobile mostly for inspectors and farmers who are doing the work on the field. Now, for the past 30 months, we have been working with the pilots in Greece, Lithuania, where we had the 2 paying agencies, in Serbia, where we did a pivot in the middle of the project. In the beginning, we were thinking about preparing farmers for the environmental measures they need to follow once they enter EU. But we've seen that the most crucial, the most important thing for them at this point was how they could have a workflow system with services that could help them follow the organic certification legislation. And that is because they cannot export organic products to Europe without the EU logo. For that, we changed the narrative and we did the RECAP platform for organic farming. In the case of Spain, you will hear more from our pilot there. We worked really close with semi-public organization for agricultural consultants, and the same applied to the case of Lithuania, where we had the farmers consultant as well on board. And at the end, you see UK, where along with the University of Reading, the partners who helped us build the user requirements phase and to understand what is needed out there to be built, we had the chance to pilot test this platform with a private company that offers consultant services to farmers for cross-compliance there. Today, you will hear more about how we did that. The remote sensing component will have a dedicated speech from Harris later on. My colleague Iphigenia will give you a demonstration of the platform, how it works. You can always just raise your hand and ask any question that you want. This is the kind of workshop that we intend to have today. This is the input that we require from you. And then we will have a pilot panel discussion. My colleagues will come here and give you their experience, how they have seen the work that we have been doing so far, what it is that they need in the long term and the short term, and later on we can have an open discussion with you.
Hello, my name is Iphigenia, and following Mahi's presentation, I'm going to present you the RECAP platform. First of all, I would like to mention that we have developed the RECAP platform in close collaboration with the users, farmer paying agencies, and consultants in order to address their needs and deliver the maximum value. So, as a user visit the RECAP platform, you can see the login interface. And let's start with the farmer's profile. When the farmer logs in, he can register himself and he can register all the requested details regarding the basic payment scheme. Regarding his parcels, he can upload the requested details from the SAPE file, or he can even draw the limits within the RECAP. Of course, he can edit the details at any given point or even delete the parcel. He fills all the needed information per parcel through a questionnaire form. After completing this step, he is able to see all the CC rules that apply for his inserted parcels through this interface. He can view the rules per parcel basis or for the whole holding. For each rule, he is able to see what he should do or not do in order to comply with the rule, and he can upload all the supportive documents and images in order to showcase his compliance with the rule, as we can see here. After completing all the steps, he can click on the respective box, and the color of the CC rule changes to green. We are going to see it soon enough. All right. Moreover, he is able to give access to his detail to the paying agency or the inspector. And he is able to see his compliance with the greening rules through the greening calculator. At any given point, he can see his compliance through an overall interface, the self-assessment tool, and he can download this document. After the inspector has performed on spot checks, the farmer is able to see the results. Farmer has his own repository. This means that he can upload all the respective documents and images in order to showcase his compliance and provide more details throughout the on-spot checks. These documents can be assigned to specific filters, and he can provide the visibility in order for the inspector to have access to. Farmer, moreover, is able to grant access to additional users, for instance, to his consultant with specific role, for example, edit their profiles. This section is very important for the consultant too, because a consultant from this section can handle all of his clients, and he can log into the platform and their accounts and handle their details. Moreover, there's the reminders. Here, the farmer is able to add a reminder in order to organize his activities, or even see reminders from the CC rules. For his convenience, he can see all of these reminders as a list. Now, the map section. Here, the farmer is able to see all his parcels that insert into the platform and receive additional information based on spatial data or on results from the remote sensing component. Of course, our colleague Harris will present further the RECAP remote sensing tool and later on. Here, as we can see, first of all, I would like to mention that during the user requirement phase, we understood that we cannot build just one platform. So we developed 5 different customized platforms for each pilot. And in each pilot platform, there are several data sets that can be viewed as layers on the top of the map, as we can see here. Of course, the farmer is able to have an access to prior basic payment schemes applications. We understood that it's very important for farmers to be informed about any later regulation or announcement, so we included the e-learning tool to the platform where the paying agency can upload all the respective documents. And of course, the farmer is able to communicate directly with the paying agency or the inspectors at any given point. Now, let's move on to the paying agency profile. When the agent logs into the RECAP platform, he can have a wide overview and of different information. For instance, he can see all the farmers that are registered, all the farmers under his jurisdiction registered into the RECAP platform, and he can select and assign them to be inspected by each of their inspectors. Of course, they are able to upload documents and images and other relevant documents to the e-learning tool in order for farmers to be informed, and they can communicate and respond to farmers' messages whenever it is needed. Through the map section, the paying agencies can see all the parcels with relative indices produced by the remote sensing component, and of course spatial information too. And as you can see, this information is pretty much the same with the farmer's profile, but now on a larger geographical scale. Of course, here we have results and layers such as NDVI, NDWI, all products for the remote sensing component. Now, last but not least, we are going to see the inspector's profile, where all the inspectors are able to handle their farmers that need to be inspected. Once they open the inspection form, they are able to fill in all the details and the requested forms that from the inspection. And if the farmer has given access to him, he is able to see the CC rules checklist, and he can finalize his decision. As I told you, these results are visible to the farmers too. Furthermore, he can schedule his activities, or even he can send an email to the respective farmer for his imminent inspection. He has his own repository where he can upload documents or images in order to provide justification about the results. And he can log into the map section where he is able to see the farmers' parcels with additional information from the remote sensing result critical for the farmer's compliance, such as the crop declared and the crop identified through the remote sensing result, the farmer's applicability to the CC rules based on indices produced by the remote sensing component. All these functionalities are included in the mobile application, and which is accessible through the Google Store. Sorry, yes, of course, the messages. Okay, to the mobile application, as Mahi said, the mobile application is for the farmers and the inspectors. And we have two additional features here. The first feature is that it uses the offline mode. What I mean is that without data connection, the inspector or even the farmer can perform all the necessary actions, and once he once he connects to the internet, this information can be uploaded to the platform. Or they can upload geodacked photos in order to provide with accurate information about what they have done. And now the RECAP team has developed the SDK tool, which is developed in PHP language, and it delivers the opportunity to the developers to deliver third-party applications based on RECAP services. And this is quite helpful because we can exclude the complexity of using API. And here is the documentation on how you can install the SDK and what you can do with it. Thank you.
Gets an upload. Okay.
Yeah, Liam Cashman, DG Environment. Thank you very much for the presentations, which are very illuminating. I had a few questions about whether you considered the psychology that might be involved in decisions by farmers on whether to use this tool or not. Two things occurred to me. It's clearly a tool that delivers benefits for the farmers, but there may be some reservations. One reservation might be that it opens up to outside scrutiny exactly what the farmer is doing, what he's thinking, his searches, whatever. That's number one. And then number two, looking at it from the other side, from the perspective of the inspectorate, because you seem to envisage a kind of relationship between the farmer's use of the tool and the inspector's use of the tool. And the question is this, that if inspectors are required to carry out inspections in respect of the whole farming community, so their function wouldn't be simply to inspect the RECAP users, but they would have to divide their time between RECAP users and non-RECAP users. But an inspector might say to him or herself, well, actually, I much prefer to inspect the RECAP users because they do a lot of my work for me, and I know I'm likely to have a nice interaction with them. So how would you then deal with that perception then maybe by the farmer that, well, if I go into this tool, I'm actually likely to have a much closer relationship with the inspectorate than I might want? And that then, the final point I have is, I think the tool has multiple uses and benefits, and without getting into this business of the interaction between the farmer and the inspector, I think the tool is still really useful, potentially as a way of passing advice to the farmer, also allowing him to draw down information that's useful. So I don't know that this relationship between the inspection function and the farmer's use of the tool should be inevitable. So there might be, I could imagine that you could have different gradations of use. So the farmer might be interested in using it as a source of information, maybe not necessarily as something that commits him to a relationship with the inspector.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much for your question. That's a very interesting point that you raise here, and has taken a lot of time during our meetings and discussions. I will, first of all, I would like to ask Gintare and Jason later on through the pilot discussion to come up to this point about farmers, because you are the experts, and of course Alberto. But I will give you the answers that we have to share with you. First of all, regarding farmers and inspectors, at this point it is not, they are not obliged by using RECAP to give visibility. This is why we have the button of visibility. So if the farmer wants to give visibility, then he does, if he or she. If he or she doesn't want to give access, then they don't. And this is exactly because of the concerns you raised regarding why should I give it, why. On the other hand, when it comes to inspectors, there is no way, from what I understood, and this goes to Lithuaros and Kostas, to sample, to have the sampling of the farmers that they need to control by having in mind who is using RECAP or not. So the sampling methodology is something completely different, and it has nothing to do with RECAP, even if the paying agencies were using RECAP. It's a big discussion that we had about legislation and how this can be integrated into the systems they have. Harris will later on discuss a little bit about the risk assessment tool that we have for the sampling methodology as well. But this, at this point, is not connected at all to the use of RECAP from the farmers. It's completely different. So these are two completely different points. Kostas, later on, when you have the pilot discussion, you can come up to this point again. Thank you. So that goes for farmers and inspectors and the relationship they have. Our vision, of course, is that a farmer will be using the RECAP platform as a means to prove their work. And with what we hope with this platform is not for farmers to be afraid of something, but for farmers to raise compliance by understanding the rules. This is the idea. Because farmers do not even understand the impact of their activities to the environment, and they don't know whether they are the ones responsible for what they are doing. So one thing is to understand the impact, to understand the rules, and to understand what they need to do. This is of huge importance at this moment. Any more questions at this point? Yes, please. And I have to say a big thank you for joining us for this session. Having DG Agri, Connect, Environment, and all the rest, it really shows that this is not an isolated issue only for the environment or only for the ICT community or the administration. It is an issue that I think it's around every aspect of the agricultural sector. Yes, sorry.
Good afternoon, Wim van der Maas from the Netherlands. Looks like a very helpful and useful tool, very neat also looking. I have two questions. Has it any legal status, or is there any intention from any legal status from the content of the instrument? Will it have any, in court, will it, for example, the information you gave, will it stuck or no? And then, related to that, if that is a yes, but I doubt it, if that is a yes, then how is the authentication process? I saw, for example, you said the Google App Store. Then I get a little bit worried, where is the information, who is the owner, and what is happening with it? So how well is that, you might say, secured? That are my two questions.
Okay, thank you. Now, regarding the first thing, until early this year, using remote sensing, please correct me, anybody if I'm wrong, but until early this year, it was not a tool that could be used in order to prove something in court. The seeing that from a picture that someone is violating something was not a tool that could prove something. After May this year, it is it's not obligatory by the member states to adopt it. It might take several years, but remote sensing could be used in order to prove something even legally. It is not adopted by paying agencies yet, so far. That is what we know. But then again, the question goes to the paying agencies, and I would be more than happy to give them the floor to answer this. But regarding our idea about RECAP, again, was not about proving if a farmer, only proving if a farmer declares the wrong crop or not, but even help them to do a better sampling in the beginning, to have a risk of assessment, and then by having a more efficient on-the-spot checks. We didn't think in the beginning, we don't know how it will evolve in time and technology, that this could actually replace 100% the on-the-spot checks. But it's a complementary tool that will help them make it more efficient. As for privacy of the data, of course, we follow all the rules, all the policy rules, all the legislation that has been introduced lately regarding privacy and how we collect, store, and process data. Everything is under this new legislation that we follow very closely, of course.
Thank you for the presentation. Olivier Mas from DG Env. One of the functionality of the platform is to provide a summary of the obligation for the farmers in terms of cross-compliance. And we saw that in the platform. My question was, where was the environmental legislation taken into account, meaning that, for instance, the cross-compliance rules may differ if you are in a nitrate vulnerable zone, that if you are not, if you are a Natura 2000 area or in a river basin management where the status is less than good. Has this environmental legislation been taken into account for providing the list of obligation to the farmer?
Thank you for your question. Okay, I see all of my colleagues here very interested to take the floor and give you answers. Yes, it was. Olga, I see you nodding all the time. Olga Zuvara from RECAP, please, just a quick answer if you want. Olga, yes. Yeah. It was based on that, exactly. They are all very eager to share with you the results. We've done a lot of work, so yes. Yes, of course.
One of the things I'm curious about is what this tool has already done or may do in respect of a specific but very important requirement under the Nitrates Directive, and that's a requirement to have a particular level of storage for farm wastes. So it would be useful to know exactly as an illustration how that was dealt with in the tool. For instance, would you simply say, well, can the farmer know exactly by using the tool that he is in a zone that requires, let's say, 6 months storage facility? Does it stop there, or does it go beyond that? And does it say, well, if you haven't got the storage, how to set about getting the storage? You might need a permission. You might need to conform to a particular standard in the construction of the facility. Would these ancillary questions be answered through the tool? And if not now, could they be answered in the future?
For the Greek platform, we have give some requirements about this. We have managed to have in the platform all the diaries of the farmer, all the input and output data. And we have also a calculator. If the farmer has any animals, they calculate from there the units of nitrate. And if the farmer has allocated his parcels or her parcels in a natural valuable zone, we take into account the special limits of N units concerning the special area. If all the calculation exceeds this limit, he gets a reminder. if he gets a reminder, it's his own responsibility to lower the units. And if he's controlled and give us visibility to see his data, he gets a penalty.
So he gets an
Yes, yeah, but if he's he has to show off the data, so even if he doesn't show visibility, he can be checked.
Yes, Cost.
Well, when we go for an inspection, he has to demonstrate everything that he introduced. When we go for an inspection, he has to demonstrate everything that he introduced in RECAP. If we don't go for an inspection, he doesn't have to show us anything. But if we go there, he has to prove that he had followed everything that's written there. So the visibility button is compulsory when we go there. Otherwise, he will have to prove whatever is declared in RECAP, if he doesn't use RECAP, in another mean. For example, invoices and everything. So
let's just say that these are the platforms that were made for the needs of the people involved. So it was for the paying agency of Greece and Lithuania, how they are doing so far their work, what it is that they need, this is how we build it. If another paying agency, and this goes back to the discussion we had earlier about scalability, customization, everything. If another paying agency has a different level of maturity or a different way of doing work, then this should be integrated into their system and customized to their needs. So until now, what you hear is not what the platform can do, but it is what the platform is doing for the paying agencies so far. But if the paying agency of Spain comes and says, oh, I don't want visibility, I don't want the farmer to do anything with that, I just want the alert system, that's okay. It can be done. But this is the idea. This is the proof of concept that we made here. It can actually work.
Hello, thank you. I'm Haris Kodoues. I'm representing the remote sensing group of the National Observatory of Athens. First of all, I would like to say I'm sorry that I'm going to give you a technical presentation. It's not such size as the two before, but I mean, this is the remote sensing community. Okay, the title of my presentation is the value that we can get out from the use of Copernicus satellite data for an automating monitoring of crops in support to the Common Agricultural Policy. And actually, whatever we do is try to meet requirements of the new reform of the Common Agricultural Policy that we do need to visit or at least to have information from all partners, I mean, that are lying in the agricultural areas over Europe. And now, if you ask me if this is possible or not, after the RECAP project experience, I would tend to say yes, but yes, also because we have on hand some new technologies are already available, including cloud technologies, including Galileo Cloud, and technologies for the automated processing of and analysis of big satellite data. So the technology is there, the willingness on our side is there. I mean, the scientists are before of a big challenge of using big satellite data. We have now to get access to, and we have actually, and we are receiving data on a systematical basis over the entire cultivation season. So it is on our hands to use it in an efficient manner for the farmers and the paying agencies. And actually, what the remote sensing tool in that nice platform that was just presented by Iphigenia is doing is trying to provide information which is useful for the decision support system, decisions on farmers' compliance to CAP rules and obligations, especially regarding the crop residue bearing restrictions, the diversification of crops, the maintenance of permanent grasslands in the parcels, the maintenance of soil cover, and to some extent the location of water courses and how they are treated across the cultivated areas. The opportunity, as I just have, is the Sentinel data. The solution that we have provided as remote sensing group is to provide an automated, transferable, robust classification tool for the satellite data so as to give crop evidences at parcel level. Here you see an overview of the architecture that has been developed. It's actually comprising of 3 pillars. The one at the left is the ingestion pillar. Actually, here we are ingesting into the decision support system every satellite image, Sentinel-2 image, which becomes available on any of the usual data hubs we are using for the distribution of data, Sentinel data over the globe, actually. We are getting access to the collaborative ground segment, also access to the Hellenic mirror site, but also access to the scientific data hub. The second pillar, in the middle is the remote sensing part of the component of the system. Here it's a huge set of modules for common pre-processing, but also processing of satellite data. I mean, common ones like geometric corrections or atmospheric correction of data, co-registration of data, but also more advanced tools for classifying the data, segmenting the image, and using machine learning techniques for crop classification. And the third pillar to the right is what more or less has been described by Iphigenia, my colleague Iphigenia before. It is actually providing to this, we have encoded in this part the ruling scheme of Common Agricultural Policy OS. Once the crop evidence is ingested into that, the rules can provide evidences if the farmer is compliant or not. It is a rather, I would say, we like this system, actually, what has been developed. And I take the opportunity to say here that I'm really delighted to be part of this project because it is one of the projects Horizon 2020, not many, of course, that have given something very concrete at the end. And of course, it may need more advancements and better features to be developed, but I mean, the future is ours. I mean, but what we have done up to now, it is a system that it is based on well-established and validated methodologies, especially for the processing of the satellite data. It is an open source system. It is a modular system, so it is extendable. It can be added any additional module, and I will be happy to discuss with you any ideas about adding new modules, but we have already some in mind to do. And it is a scalable system, I mean, the way that it can process big satellite data in a rather timely manner, and this is something that we have also checked in the framework of the RECAP project, although RECAP was not a project for analysis big satellite data as such. We have developed 3 main methodologies. The one is a novel and parcel-based machine learning technique for processing the data and classifying the crops. We developed a module for a risk assessment regarding water pollution at parcel level. This was based on the use of the revised universal soil loss equation method, which is used in combination with topographic data. And the third module is the customization of an in-house burnt scar mapping algorithm. We have several burnt scar mapping algorithms that has been used in the framework of some disasters projects. We ran a lot on that, but this specific module has been customized so as to meet requirements of the RECAP project in order to detect tumbler residue burning. In the very early beginning of the project, we considered several types of satellite data. Actually, more of the study has been based on high-resolution satellite data. Together with Sentinel-2 data, we consider Landsat data and data from the Copernicus contribution missions, high-resolution or very high-resolution data. Of course, everything is there, everything is available. The system is sensor-agnostic, it's geographic-agnostic, but in order to be efficient and provide timely information, we decided mainly, if not only, to use Sentinel data. And this is because the combination of, Sentinel data presents the best combination of cost, temporal resolution, spatial resolution, coverage, etc. But again, we can integrate, as you will see, any type of sensor and any type of Sentinel of satellite information that is available. As for the non-EO information, geospatial data that we are using, it is very common data. It is available in every country at the paying agencies in every country. Actually, we are using the declaration data, the LPIS system, so as to get information on the boundary of the parcels and information about the hydrographic network. The system is classification as data processing system is a multi-temporal approach. It classifies a time series analysis of multispectral satellite imagery. We ingest into the classification process every available image which may be acquired over the entire cultivation season or even the entire year, providing, or merging, let's say, data from both cultivation seasons. The system applies an object-based classification. The images are segmented on the basis of the LPIS data, and the decision is taken at the level of the parcel. We have actually created and used a very big feature space for classification. This was comprising of all channels of any image that was ingested into the system, plus some additional indices, including vegetation indices, SPPSRI, and DWI. Several indices that have proven to be or to provide useful information for the classification of the crops. And the system integrates several classification algorithms and machine learning techniques, including weighted k-nearest, subspace discriminant, random forest, and SVM quadratic classification techniques. I have to tell you that the two latter, the random forest and SVM, have been the most promising classification techniques for classifying such a big feature space. The whole system, the research that has been developed in the framework of this project, the tests of the system, the validation of the system, everything has been included in a scientific publication that was presented in last June in the remote sensing peer review article. So, you can get all the information about this classification processing chain and the feature space and everything in this publication. The classification of the crops is done at 3 levels. The first level is the most broad one. Actually, it is the one that classifies the parcel in summer or winter crop. Okay. The second level of classification is about the family of the crop, if it is the crop belongs to cereals, legumes, oilseed, etc. And the third level is the more detailed classification level. So we have a hierarchical classification scheme of 3 levels. The most detailed one is the one at the level of the crop, at the level of the parcel, which means, for example, we classify the parcel as wheat, corn, barley, oat, so this type of classification. What you see here, actually, is the outcome of the experiments we have run. This is one example, which showcases the level of accuracy that has been achieved. What you see here is an experiment that we ran over the Navarra region in Spain. Actually, we classified some tens of thousands of parcels there. So you see, in this type of confusion matrix, the crops that have been considered into the classification or actually returned by this classification with high-level classification accuracy. It reached up to the 90% classification accuracy, and this is measured by the means of kappa coefficient, which is one objective way to measure classification confidence level. Of course, not all the crops have been classified at the same level of accuracy. There were some crops that were presenting some difficulties because of their confusion spectrally with other crops, for example, oat that was mixed with spectrally with barley or wheat, or some other classes like grassland, for example, that was presenting different a complexity, if I may say, because different vegetation types and different spectral signatures are representative to this specific class. Here you see a figure which demonstrates what is the required feature space with respect to the classification confidence level. So, if you see the classification at the 2 higher levels, that is at the season level or family crop level, it does not require a big feature space. It may be a rather short feature space of a few channels, of a few images that can reach to achieve a good accuracy. However, when we want to get classification accuracy high at the crop level, we should ingest into the classifier a much bigger feature space of 60 or even more elements. Okay. We tested several approaches. We tried the significance of these approaches by using different combinations of classifiers, of satellite data. We ran experiments with combination of Sentinel-2 and Landsat data, also these against different classifiers. In general, I mean, as an outcome, we may say that, of course, if we add also Landsat data into the process, to the processing chain, the accuracy may be somehow higher, but it's not that high so as to justify the implications or complexity by adding this data into the Sentinel-2 time series of data that has been used. Anyway, as I told you before, I mean, this is just a result. Of course, the system can integrate many different combinations and types of data and sensors. As a final conclusion, what we feel is that we have developed a system that can provide high-level accuracies. It is an extendable and scalable system, as I just mentioned. It is a system which can be applied on demand. Of course, it is geographic and sensor agnostic. There are some considerations. I'm sure you're hearing me speaking about Sentinel-2 data. Of course, Sentinel-2 data is what has been tested mainly in this project. Sentinel today, of course, it's not the only existing data, and it's not the data that can fit to any requirement, especially in countries at northern latitudes that are cloudy countries. So we have developed now, and we are it is an ongoing process actually, that we are developing another approach that is including into the feature space Sentinel-1 data. So therefore integrating information regarding polarimetry and coherence of crop types. I don't want to go further on it because I don't have some very specific to say today, but it is an ongoing process so that we can give a system that can be really geographic agnostic. Sorry, I said it before, but it doesn't be the case yet. The system, okay, I think it was in last month, yes, last June, sorry, that we collected declarations from farmers. And we tested this remote sensing solution over 3 big pilot areas in Greece, Spain, and Lithuania. Of course, we used data, Sentinel data that had been acquired up to this moment. Therefore, it was not the full year. It was just one season data. So the accuracy had been of the order of 88% and not 90%, as I presented to you before. Apart from the classification output, it was also provided another layer that was depicting the parcels with a color like you see here, green, yellow, red. Green have been the parcels that were classified with a high level confidence level, I mean more than 90%. With green, we've given parcels that were at the level of 70 to 90, and below that, all parcels were classified as red. Here you see what has been provided as green, yellow, red in the different crop types. This is, I think, the Spain pilot area. We classified about 12,400 parcels in this area. So you see that yellow and red is about 9 to 10% as a total. And so, what we call smart sampling, actually, in this case, that we are providing this outcome to the paying agencies, to the inspectors, and the inspectors have to decide where to visit, actually, on the field. What we suggest, actually, to visit is the ones that have been, the parcels that have been classified with at high confidence level, although the declaration of the farmers is totally different of what the classification says, or the parcels that have been classified with a medium level, that's for the accuracy level of 70 to 90%, and again, the declaration of the farmer says something different. I think the floor is to our paying agencies and to our users, actually, in the project to say what has been, how useful this has been, and what is their opinion. And I think there will be presentations on that just after my presentation. But this is what more or less the system is. I mean, is given to this decision support platform presented before by our colleagues in Praxis. And here you see a map, for example, with where it is. This is again Spain. There are depicted several parcels as red parcels. These are the parcels actually that have been classified at a very high confidence level, but the declaration of the farmer is different. So you see that out of all this area, a very small sample of parcels is, according to our suggestion, need to be visited and inspected on site. So maybe I was fast, maybe I was too technical, but this is me. But please feel free to ask me, any question you may have on this. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. At the outset, Mackie made the very important point that at farm level, a farmer may have to comply with a lot of different rules, and I think she mentioned a figure of up to 150 different prescriptions. There is the ambition to reduce the need for on-the-spot inspections using all these very promising technologies, but I think there's still a gap. So the question I have has to do with that gap. You've explained what remote sensing can do, what different aspects remote sensing can cover in terms of fine-tuning what can usefully be inspected on the ground. But coming back then to the potential list of prescriptions, have you any overall estimate of how useful is remote sensing in overall terms compared to the full scale of prescriptions, environmental prescriptions that a farmer needs to satisfy? And again, I come back to the example of the storage facility. As I understand it, the satellite resolutions haven't yet reached the stage where they can detect whether storage exists or not, or whether it's likely to be of the dimensions that would be required on a particular land holding. What do you say about that gap, and do you have any thoughts on what we can expect in the future with technological developments? I mean, if we were speaking in 5 years' time, would that no longer be an issue?
Okay, thank you. Yes, I mean, a very, very, very good point. Actually, at the beginning of the project, we went through all these different obligations, and we tried to find out what remote sensing could provide at that level of state-of-the-art of advancement. And we concluded to the 4 or 5 points that I presented in one of my slides there. And again, I have to tell you that not all of them still at the level of, let's say, of providing such high confidence, so that we have to rely fully on that. But of course, remote sensing in several cases can provide some evidence which can be used by the inspectors, I mean, for making their own sampling procedure or for enhancing their own sampling procedures for on-site inspections. But again, I mean, of course, remote sensing cannot provide anything today. I mean, we are using mainly high-resolution data. Several of the obligations, I mean, are referring to very high-resolution information. And what I can tell you for today is that at least, I mean, unless we get access to the very high spatial resolution information in the same timely and cost-effective manner as we can get with Sentinel data, I think we are a bit far of saying today that remote sensing can really meet all these requirements. Of course, we could consider other technologies. I mean, we could consider drone technology, we could consider very high resolution, but I mean, everything is there, is open, it is for the discussion. What I can tell you is that, I mean, as it concerns imaging and classification techniques and processing, I mean, this system that has been developed, as I told you, is open and modular. I mean, if we may have access to other data of different sensors, of different resolution, etc., we may consider this as a possibility to test this data, validate this data, and use this data. But Fully agree with you. It's not possible today with the existing state of the art or the existing maturity in relation to remote sensing data, etc., to have all we need to meet the CAP requirements.
As a follow-up question, would you recommend the Commission to get rid of all regulations that cannot be monitored?
No, I wouldn't say that, but maybe I don't know. If you ask a remote sensing scientist, it would make my life much easier. But maybe it's a question to be addressed to the.
No, it's a question to the consortium, Tomer. The answer is no. The consortium says no.
This is my also personal opinion question.
Yeah, as an opinion, Harris. Yes, but sorry, Harry. Simon would like to comment something.
Simon Mortimer, University of Reading. I'm one of the project team.
Simon,
Excuse me. Use the microphone because these sessions are recorded without the microphone. You won't know who I am. Simon Mortimer, University of Reading. I'm one of the project team. We led on the definition of user requirements, and clearly the obligations on farmers in the Common Agricultural Policy are many and varied. Only some of those have a spatial aspect, so a lot of the breaches of obligations on farmers are to do with record keeping, to do with animal movements, to do with plant protection products. And clearly you can't monitor that by remote sensing. But I think the remote sensing tools are very valuable. And I think the real achievement of the project is to demonstrate in real time that you can take sentinel imagery up until quite late in the season, in June, and you can generate a product for inspectors before the crop is out of the field. So in that narrow window that the inspecting agencies have between June and maybe July or August, we're able to target checks. So we can demonstrate a tool that can save money from the public purse. In terms of the other obligations, we're not saying get rid of them, but we are saying that we have a platform where farmers can more easily upload data, PDF files, invoices from spray contractors, animal movement records, and they can mount them in the cloud such that they could be made available remotely to inspectors, whereas we suspect at the moment with many inspectors carrying out on-the-spot checks, there is a very significant time commitment to going and sitting in a farm office and wading through paperwork. And so we've demonstrated a tool that can save very significant time in terms of public expenditure on compliance checking, but that doesn't have a spatial component. That relates to record keeping.
Thank you. Simon, just a quick note to say that Harris needs to be excused for a while. So if you have any more technical questions, he will come back to join us.
Yes, because I have to join the Eurogeos session. I should be there. I mean, at the same time, I don't know how this happened, but anyway. So
this is what happens with famous people.
I will be back.
Yes, to have a coffee with us.
No, to even discuss with you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. But if you have no technical questions whatsoever, I'm here to answer them. Yes, please.
Excuse me. No, I have a question for
Harry.
The problem is, I would like to know something about the geometrical and accuracy resolution.
Let's continue this discussion right after the panel discussion with the pilots, where Harris will join us again. So
okay.
That's okay with you, because I really cannot take this question. Yes?
Okay.
Me?
Hello, I'm Hugo de Groof from DG Environment, and an old member of the Mars unit, and there are many amongst us here, the younger generation, the old generation. Harris just left, a colleague of mine from the past. Now, one of the things that I was considering when you mentioned the farmer themselves, the duty holder themselves, we know there are limitations with the high-resolution satellite imagery. I could ask Harris, how's the relationship with the parcel size, for example, because then you will get many more mixed pixels and so on. So how does that play? But we are talking also about the farmer himself, and you said he has a lot of responsibilities. Now, what if, maybe a totally stupid question, he just takes a picture with a digital camera from the field, and that goes into the system as well?
It does. It is a functionality already there.
Wow, great.
There is a functionality where you can get a geostamp photo and upload it to the system, as Iphigenia showed earlier, in order to prove, let's say, or to demonstrate what we have been doing so far. Yes, it's already there.
That's great.
The question, yes?
Sorry. No, that's great, because I have my phone with me, and
exactly.
It can already distinguish my cat from my dog, Sometimes it comes out with an elephant.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
quite clear that with the
I think
volume
that-
of pattern recognition and so on, it's going to be a game changer.
Yeah. But for me, it's very clear from the introduction we gave yesterday to the session we had, Ugo, and thank you so much for that, because it cleared everything to our minds, even for RECAP, that this is not a tool about, stopping all controls if they cannot be done by remote sensing, they cannot be replaced. That's not about it. It's a tool that can actually assist farmers to be more compliant, to understand, as you said yesterday, that they cannot even understand anything, and for paying agents to be more efficient and transparent. As far as this can go at this point, at this level of technology that we have available.
Piotr Wojda, DG Agri.
Yes.
I will have a comment rather than a question. Thank you very much, first of all, for the presentation and the project. We followed it a bit, and also at the policy session that you organized in Brussels. So it was very useful for us to know how it goes, and it's very useful to participate also in this final session. So I'm pretty much impressed by the results of the project. I see that it takes into account a lot. But one remark from my side, we are focusing here a lot on remote sensing and how to do checks with remote sensing, but we can also go towards this monitoring approach, which we have just introduced to open our legislation to let the member states a possibility to do area monitoring by remote sensing, but also integrating other technologies. So, for example, geotagged photography is also included in the process, or it could be document management and registering. So I think that the monitoring should be seen not only as a remote sensing through remote sensing vehicle, but a process of monitoring, taking into consideration all available information. Yes. To make a conclusive check at the end, yes. If the field or the farm is eligible for payment. So that's why I would prefer to speak about more holistic approach. Yes. Yes, but right. Thank you very much for this platform. I think that it has its merits, and it should be promoted. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for all the support we got, because even when we organized the session last October, we're not in fact aware of the changes in the legislation that are taking place there, and being informed on that helped us a lot to even change some parts of the platform. When we began, I'm an agronomist, but when we began this platform, it was evident to us that there are no easy answers or easy tasks. Even LPIS systems are closed. You cannot get information like that, and in order for the Spanish pilot to get information, the UK pilot could not get LPIS declaration. Even if they belong to the farmer, it's not open. So sometimes we are not there yet. There are steps to be made first, and then to go to the final step where we can do everything with a platform. So we take it one step at a time. But I would like now to invite my colleague Dimitris, who has done a great job introducing RECAP to the whole Brussels, let's say, community, along with our partners, our pilot partners. But Dimitris, you can start. And
thank you very much. Thank you all for remaining and coming to the final, let's say, part of this workshop. I will already invite the pilot partners to join us on the stage, just to save some time, and I will immediately proceed with the presentation. Okay. So, a very, very quick discussion on the lessons we learned during the last 30 months of implementation. It has been mentioned already that the solutions developed have been user-driven solutions. This is a fundamental issue for RECAP, because we were able to identify needs of all different stakeholders involved in the project, starting from farmers, agricultural consultants and advisors, as well as paying agencies being one of the main beneficiaries. Along this procedure, we gathered the user requirements, and which helped us to proceed with the co-production phase, starting with farmers, continuing with the paying agents and consultants, and finally integrating the software development kit, which has been introduced already to you, into the overall RECAP platform. We had the first release of the platform on September 2017, and since then there have been new versions uploading and introducing new features of the services. Going to the pilot implementation, there were 3 main phases where we identified local teams, we proceeded with trainings, setting up the strategy, recruiting all the participants for the trainings, for all stakeholders involved, starting the training itself and the development of the local strategy, bringing all the participants in discussions and following specific planning in order to proceed with the implementation. And now we are facing the last part, which is the evaluation, and we receive all different results, which is going to be used to build the reports of our final findings. Mahi already introduced that there were 5 pilot sites across Europe, and we brought together farmers, consultants, and inspectors using the platform, evaluating the services, validating the services, and providing tangible feedback on how we can do their job better, supporting their day-to-day business. What can we say we achieved through this implementation? As my colleagues will be there, we'll have a more targeted discussion with them, and you will be able to ask them if you want further questions. But the RECAP has focused on providing a tool for paying agents in order to be more specific and targeted in their on-the-field inspections, saving time, saving money, using technologies, satellite data, all technologies available today in order to make their work better. Farmers received personalized services. We mentioned that we linked specific needs, but also characteristics of farmers and farmers' activities to the rules that they need to comply with. So they knew directly what they need to follow, what are the activities and actions they need and don't need to proceed with. Finally, agricultural consultants were provided with tools, with open tools upon which they can build new services, new added value services. Advisors, in the same way, they are able to use all the knowledge and data collected into the platform and developed additional advisory services, new advisory services for the farming sector. Going directly to our colleagues, we have gathered some of their statements and will be the starting point of this panel discussion. So I would like to invite them to introduce shortly themselves, starting from the right-hand side from my side, meaning Alberto representing India, which is a semi-public organization and will give us some information from the Spanish pilot site, where we have witnessed that more or less 40% of the time spent on the spot checks has been saved due to the use of the new technologies and the RECAP platform. Please, Alberto, have the floor.
Hello, good afternoon. Yes, I can say perhaps that one of the target is to save time to do the inspection quicker. So in this sense, using the traffic light, we can assess the risk of the plots. And what is expected is that focusing on the spot check, we can save time and do it better, this job. But perhaps in our role in this project was mostly as advisors of farmers and taking then information from farmers. What can I say about the farmers? When we have been working the pilot with farmers, perhaps there are 2 conclusions that for them were more practical. The first one is when talking with them, they say, oh, I can correct my mistakes. Because sometimes the farmers, many times, there are service providers that complete their declaration, and there are mistakes because there are a very large number of plots for farmers. So in this sense, the use of Sentinel could help then to reduce the mistakes and correct the mistakes before the inspection, so avoid the problems. This is the first question for farmers. The second one perhaps is the way they say, so I can have information of the specific requirements of each plot. Yes, this is the information that the RECAP can give you for each plot of your farm. So for them, it was really interesting, because we noticed that for most of the farmers, for many farmers, they doesn't know really what are the rules, the requirements they have to apply in each specific plot. So it is very practical also for them. What about the advisors? For the advisors, mostly it was very interesting the way that they can communicate to farmers, and for farmers communicate one-to-one directly with their consultant. And in this sense, for advisors, this is the opportunity to offer their family farmers information just in the precise moment that is needed for farmers, and for the precise plots, parcels, in which the requirement is needed. So for them, it's a very practical tool in this sense, because it's a way to really be present in the farm just in the precise moment when needed.
Thank you, Alberto. We can continue with Jason, where he'll tell us a few words about the experience in the UK pilot.
Good afternoon. My name's Jason Bedell. I work for a firm of agricultural consultants called Stratton Parker. We're one of the biggest firms of consultants in the UK. And our role in the project was to help design the platform in co-production, but mainly to test it in our pilot testing. So we used the platform with 150 farmers. And rather than tell you everything we found, I want to just focus on one thing that Liam raised a little bit earlier, and that's whether giving farmers more targeted information can improve their compliance with rules. And exactly as Alberto said, we've got a very similar situation in the UK, where we've got lots of detailed rules, probably over 100 pages. Realistically, I think very few farmers have read them, and very few know them in massive detail. So having a tool that simplifies it for them and puts it in very plain language and just focuses on the rules that really apply to them is very valued, and that's certainly the feedback we got from the farmers that we spoke to. So that was one big advantage. Another thing they said, and again, Harris gave us a fantastic presentation about how complicated the science was, but one of the most valued elements of the platform that the farmers told us was receiving notifications and reminders of when rules are coming up and what they have to do. And of course, it applies to things like cross-compliance, but perhaps thinking about how something like this platform could be used in the future. It could be used for agri-environment schemes, which are probably, in terms of management requirements, even more complicated than cross-compliance. And if you get that management right, you can produce fantastic benefits compared with if the management's average. So those are two of the main lessons we learned.
Thanks a lot, Jason. We can keep the order, and Maya will share the experience from Serbia, the somehow different pilot case of the RECAP.
Okay, hello. My name is Maja Budimir from Innocence, Novi Sad, from Serbia. We are pilot partners that are that are implemented RECAP pilot in Serbia. As this is shown, 4 out of 5 pilot users are willing to adopt the RECAP platform in Serbia. This is a very great. This shows a very great acceptance of the platform, and there are a few supportive facts that are shown this. more. First of all, as you probably know, Serbia is still a EU candidate country and still does not implement CAP. Yet, we discovered that Serbian organic subsidy scheme is similarly structured and monitored like CAP. This overall system applied to the RECAP in Serbia, which is very akin to the cross-compliance scheme in a CAP, has a specific focus on organic production, and we adapt the RECAP platform to be a support of this entire process of provision of organic subsidies. And later the tool is developed in 3 different profiles, each for the respective participant and user. Firstly, the organic farmer, then certification body, and the last for Serbian paying agency. So next thing that it goes to support this great acceptance is actually the focus of the Serbian pilot, which is on the better and more efficient process of providing the organic subsidies in general through digital support of the administrative control and the better document management process. Now considering this linkage between cross-compliance and organic subsidy system, together with the necessity for such a tool in this area, we can say that this acceptance is confirmed. There are also some following supporting activities that are more connected to a pilot organization in general. So firstly, I can say that from my experience and experience in Serbia, that co-creation of a solution was very effective and very accepted approach, especially with the farmers. And we all know that they are the most sensitive group. So from the starting point, it was a win-win situation using this method. And also beside this help and support for their administrative work, through the development of the platform, we actually discovered that all participants getting more interested in additional services of the platform. For example, a remote sensing component or functionality of roles for certification bodies in Serbia, and so on. For example, the remote sensing component in the case of organic farmers shows that farmers are really interested in using indexes. They can be very useful for crop monitoring. Of course, Serbian paying agency, they suggested even a remote sensing component to be more exploited, thus can be even more effective for their regular workflow. Organic certification bodies, on the other side, they use the RECAP as a tool for preparation, also for the on-site controls like the one in the CAP. But also, they found out, they see it can be very useful for the fraud or double certification of parcels and so on. So, to conclude, there are many positive comments after the pilot, but I think that even negative ones are very useful now. Yes. Yes, they are useful, for example, for further exploitation of the RECAP platform. So,
thank you very much, Maya. I'll ask the rest of the colleagues to be a bit more brief because I was noted that we are running out of time, so we'll give the opportunity to the floor to express questions. I will immediately pass to the Lithuanian team, where both Gintare and Liutauras will give us the insight from the advisor side and the paying agency, and we conclude with Kostas giving the experience from Greece, the paying agency of Greece.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Gintarė Kučinskienė. I'm the head of Innovation Development Department of Lithuanian Agricultural Advisory Service. It is a public institution, big advisory, independent advisory service with more than 400 advisors. We have net structure. So our task in this project was to test a RECAP platform, and we made it with 62 advisors and 101 farmers. How we made it? We created testing plan, and we started with remote training for advisors. And after 3 weeks of platform testing individually with every farmer, we had feedback about these testings. So feedback is very interesting. I can say that it was surprisingly good for us because we saw that farmers are ready, open, and would like to use such tool in their daily work. Advisors as well. And very interesting thing also is that all respondents, farmers and advisors, want to be informed in the future about such new tools. That's all.
Thank you, Gintarė.
Hello, my name is Liutauras Šimkus. I'm the director of Control Department at the Lithuanian Paying Agency. So the main focus of the pilot was sentinel data and remote sensing, which leads to faster and simpler and more transparent on-the-spot checks. So actually, Peter was right that European Commission has started the discussion regarding monitoring approach, which I hope replace our daily controls. So RECAP platform at this moment is one of the opportunities to meet the challenge. So regarding our statement, I should say that every season we make workload estimation and on the spot check. So we know that at this moment that on the spot check takes about 3 hours to check the cross-compliance requirements. And while testing RECAP platform, our inspectors spent approximately 2 hours. So that means that we can save about 1 hour. Accordingly, we calculated the cost of the on-the-spot check. In Lithuania, it is 100 euros, and it consists of the employee salary, car expenditure, GPS devices expenditure, and etc. So accordingly to our estimation, with the use of RECAP, we can reduce time and cost at the same time. We have counted that at this moment with the RECAP platform, we can save about 65,000 euros of cost per year. So, thank you.
Thanks, Gintarė. Kostas, you are the one who is going to close this session, and we immediately pass. I could give you 1 minute if it's possible.
Okay, my name is Kostas Koudouris. I am from the Greek Paying Agency. 1 minute's finished, so I hope I see you again. Well, let's try to place. As a paying agency, I have to be very careful on the extent that will be used in the paying agency. So let's try to place it, and we will see how we're going to use it. We need agriculture. We want to keep agriculture, so we spend money for that. But European Union wants money to be spent fair and square. Okay, so they put European Union implies some rules in order for the farmers to say the truth and not to have the lightest possible impact in the environment. But these rules are complicated because it's a lot of money and a lot of controls and a lot of requirements that they have to be kept. So these rules are written in many pages and many rules, and the farmers, they get confused because most of the farmers, they're not at the level, education level, or they're not willing to follow these rules. So we want, as paying agency, we have to go and make inspections and see if they keep the rules in order to allow them to take subsidies or not to give them subsidies. And there is exactly where we need the tool. Someone has to explain the rules in a simple way. Till now, there were the consultants that are in Greece at least. I don't speak about other countries because we don't have the knowledge for that. But for Greece, there were the consultants that they were going there to say, you have to do that, you have to put that, you have to make this registry there, you have to write down the book of your work you do every day, all the invoices of the spray you took, and you have to follow this rule and the other rule. You don't have to spray there, you have to spray there, etc., that you know better than me. And most of these consultants, they have made some tools. Most of them, they were primitive tools like an Excel file or whatever else, or a calendar, or they were keeping these things. And afterwards, the inspectors of OPEKP, my paying agency, was going there and try to verify all these things, that all the rules that were kept. That was a bit chaotic and heterogeneous. So what is RECAP doing? It gives the possibility for all the people to put the impact. For the farmer, for the consultants, they have this tool in order to simplify the rules and to make it, to put it in a catalog. Farmers, they are, the first time probably, they see these things in a simplified way, and one by one they can follow the criteria, the rules. And the consultants, they have to push them, and they push them in order to follow the rules, because afterwards OPEKP will come and they will fine them, or they will not give them money anymore. And the European Union will come afterwards to check OPEKP and the farmers, and everything will be messed up if there is not a tool that puts things in order and brings input to the right people, that they have to see this input in order to verify that everything works fine. This is RECAP. And maybe it's not functioning exactly 100% as we planned it in the beginning, but it's doing this job. And of course, remote sensing cannot prove everything we like from the cross-compliance. Harris, we estimate a lot. We are very obliged of your efforts, but it's not possible to see from the satellite whether he sprayed close to the water, to the surface water. But the colleague from DG Agri said before, the monitoring is not only remote sensing. Monitoring is a system that everybody puts inputs from different perspectives in order to prove that the rules are kept. I can tell you again that we are not very sure that we build something 100% covering what I said before. But we were going towards this target. And now, with the new requirements about monitoring and about indexes, because most of you from the DG Agri and DG Environment, you know that, it will be not more complicated, but more targeted in an upper level, because the beneficiary is the state now. I have read the new regulation, the proposal for the new regulation of the beginning of June. So the beneficiary is the state, and the state has to put indexes, and the indexes has to be proven that are kept by the state, and blah, blah, blah. And they need tools for that. The first tool we had now to cover all the needs of the circle that is needed, that is necessary in order to close. We pay money, you prove that it's correct, everybody is satisfied. The first step was this tool.
Thank you, Kostas, for the extended minute, I might say. We are really short in time, but we will have the chance to have some questions from the participants. So we'll need to move straight forward. There is a gentleman at the back who had a question for Harris before. So please go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Antonio Rosarena from the National Mapping Agency of Spain. My question is technical regarding the satellite. It's especially for the geometrical and accuracy. It's not clear for me if with 10-meter resolution for the Sentinel-2 it's possible to identify the very small parcels that there are in many countries, especially in order to avoid very confusion, because it's possible to classify, yes, but it is difficult, in my opinion, to identify the exactly parcel, especially the small parcel. In any case, which is your opinion? In the future, it will be not necessary because, as you know, in many countries, at least in Spain, for this project, we are using 25 centimeters in all Spain. And now you are the project proposed 10-meter resolution. And Spain, especially in the north part, there are very small parcels. What happens with, in the future with this small parcel? Do you think that in the future there will be not necessary to obtain any aerial images? We are substitute the aerial images with the satellite or not? Thank you.
Okay, this is another issue, of course, and in Greece also we have the same problem. We have a very big fragmentation of parcels in any case, and the size of parcels is small. Okay, I do not exclude at all the possibility of using other systems mentioned before, drone systems, aerial imagery, very high spatial resolution imagery, Copernicus contributing missions. But today what we have to use is the big opportunity that is provided by the Sentinel data. And the Sentinel data is the data that is provided on a regular basis every 4 days, across the entire season, cultivation season or the year. We have to somehow to use it. We have to deal with this and see what is the extent of using this data, I mean, for the benefit of such a system. Of course, it's always necessary to use high resolution data, but I mean, I think my colleagues from paying agencies could eventually correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that in the past, of course, we have used, and we are still using, very high resolution imagery, but this is just some spots in the year. I mean, I don't know, 2 or 3 dates, I mean, in the whole year. Although in this specific case, with Sentinel data, we consider getting an image across the entire phenological stage, across the entire development of the crop every 4 or 10 days. I mean, this is one reply. But of course, I mean, it's not, and again, I mean, concerning our system, and this is the last point, we didn't do a segmentation of the image on the basis of only the spectral data. We did use the LPIS system for creating objects on the image so that we could have the object that was representing the parcel, even if it was too small. And then we were trying to see, I mean, if the spectral information in that parcel across the entire cultivation period could fit to the, or would fit to the declaration. So it was not, you're right, if you ask me if we are able in making a segmentation of every parcel at any size, the answer is no. If you use the LPIS data for segmenting the image and trying to see, I mean, what is the crop content in that parcel, then it is another approach.
Any questions for the pilots?
Yes, thank you very much for your contributions to let us know what you do with the system and what it offers. What I'm interested in is, after the project, are you continuing with this, or how is it continued, or maybe you can give us an idea of what you're doing?
In our case, for example, we are a public company that are doing services for farmers in the region of Navarra, in the north of Spain. What we are planning is different strategies. One of the strategies is the connectivity, the connection of the platform to the technical platform we have for advisors. So in the sense that we can offer different kind of services in a way that is the integration of services. Also, which are the possibilities? I think that there is something that is relevant in our case, is that we are now exploring the collective use of the platform, of this kind of platform. Because in most of the cases, it's not the farmers who is really taking care of the cross-compliance. It's the service provider. It could be the cooperative, it could be some other agents that are offering these services. So in this case, we are exploring for the future, for the RECAP 2, these kind of services that are more linked to the collective offering of services for farmers, because this is one possibility that is more fruitful in the sense that we are getting very high number of farmers. For example, we are working in the project, our pilot was a cooperative with 12,000 plots, more than 500 farmers. And the main interest is not of the farmer, it's not of the particular farmers. The main interest is of the cooperative that is trying to offer their farmers information to manage properly the cross-compliance and the greening.
From a UK point of view, I think we're most excited about the prospect of passing information to farmers more effectively. And so they missed out on the opportunity 3 years ago. We will be inviting the UK paying agency to have a good look at it and hopefully engage with it.
Thank you. Anybody else from the panel or any other questions?
It seems that we're already taking half of your coffee break. Sorry for that. We hope that we will have more time for discussion, but we are here, so you can join us for coffee or later after. Yeah. You can join us for coffee out there, or we can discuss, of course, more details about it. And all of our details are available for you to contact us in any way it's more convenient for you. Thank you very, very much for your interest today, for coming here and listening to the results of our project. This is our last meeting today, so we are all really enthusiastic about it and really moved from the fact that this has come to an end. We hope you enjoyed it as well, and hope to see you soon again in another occasion. Thank you very much, everyone.